Hey everybody, my name is Kaylin Stoves, aka Kaylin the Creative, and today we're going to be talking about the war on Gaza. So I chose my literary devices and also the literature and words that I'm using in this article very, very carefully because there's a lot of, I will say, literary propaganda being used right now, calling it the war in Gaza, calling it the conflict. But in order for there to be a true conflict, there has to be two equal parties. That is not what is happening here currently in Palestine, in the Gaza Strip, and in Israel with Israel. There is a war on Gaza. There is a war on Palestine and Palestinians, on these people, their culture, and their livelihood, okay? They are being stripped right now of pretty much everything that they need to be a legitimate country, being stripped of pretty much everything that they need to keep being sustainable and to also to be fruitful, right? To be able to exist peacefully in Israel or in Palestine, however you want to like categorize that. There's been so much conflict that's been happening for over a century, and I'm going to dive straight into it today with you guys because I find the amount of ignorance around the Israeli-Palestinian Gazan conflict, I find it to be utterly shocking, and I find it to be the most damning thing about this conflict is the amount of ignorance that is surrounding it, right? The amount of people who just don't know what they don't know. The amount of people who are not willing to actually listen and hear what is happening and hear what is going on. And instead are just projecting their own ignorance into the situation. And there's so much propaganda being spread as well surrounding what's happening. And a lot of people are just like, oh, Hamas this, Hamas that. If Hamas had never attacked. But it's not about Hamas. And this is why we have to get to the true center of this lollipop. I mean, we have to get to the real root of everything that's happening right now, and not just a think piece or not just a conversation, but true facts about the situation and the truth of what is happening right now. So let's begin. All the world's a stage. A phrase we must take in unilaterally to explain the fullest extent of the Israeli occupation of Palestine. We must drink in the possibility of the unknown, the idea that we do not know everything and that there are hidden forces that are not so mystical in nature. The systems which rule us all would have you think that the United States of America and its European counterparts are saviors, surveying over us all, lords of righteousness who hold the standard of rightness and wrongness. Had to adjust so y'all can really see me. But they are not. This is the first understanding you must come to when discussing this multifaceted, multi-year conflict. Instead of asking yourself, what did they do? Ask, why weren't they allowed? The story of the war on Gaza begins when the Turkish Ottoman Empire, some 100 plus years ago, began their own occupation. Under this rule, the country of Palestine, along with many of its other Middle Eastern constituents, are under occupational control through conquerage and colonization. 400 years of control of the Turks became undone by the crumble of the Ottoman Empire in 1916, which would ensure 30 more years of British and European occupation. The thirst for freedom claws at the necks of Palestinians and Arabs everywhere. The call for a homeland, a place of safety, ricochets across the nation. Burning in their hearts, their utmost desire to become new, in a place of unsquanderable freedom. That fire, that hope, was violently snuffed out with the secret introduction of the Sykes-Picot Agreement in 1916, as European superpowers, France and Britain, shook two hands at the same time. But before that, they shook an even larger one. What we have to understand is the entire foundation of Israel started in secrecy, and it started with lies. And that is why the system and the situation has gotten so detrimental. because it started with the Arabs being promised that they would get their land and them not receiving it, and instead the British and French government or the European superpowers going behind their back and dividing the land among European nations and European peoples. Okay? This decision shattered any hopes the Arabs had of founding Palestine within a federal Syrian state. In 1920, the first High Commissioner for Palestine, Sir Herbert Samuel, a British Jew, arrived, marking the end of 400 years of Turkish rule and the start of Britain's 30-year ascendancy. In waltz the Rothschilds, more specifically, Baron Edmund de Rothschild, okay? He is the unsung... Wait a minute, y'all. Let me check something. Okay, we're good. Never mind. Edmund de Rothschild, the unsung architect of both modern-day Israel and Zionism. From 1880 through the 1920s, he began the quiet but felt colonization of Palestine. During this time, he began to lay the foundation for a Zionist homeland by building homes, estates, businesses, capital, and even agricultural frameworks. In his efforts, the indigenous Palestinian population were displaced, and purposefully so. Baron Edmund de Rothschild bore no kind sentiments for the pre-existing population, banking on the idea that they'd get out of the way of the Zionist agenda. My family created Israel, says Lord Jacob Rothschild. The Rothschilds laid the foundation for what we now know as the Zionist Empire that is, well, in quotes for those listening, but that is Israel. They laid the economic capital foundations. They laid the social foundations, and they also laid the political ideological foundations, the diplomatic foundations for Israel. They are responsible for the creation of this Zionist homeland. And it's currently teeming at the seams with this Zionist agenda that nobody knows where it came from. But it's been there from the very, very beginning. Only it has been a quiet takeover until now, because that was always the plan, a quiet takeover. And as I read on, you will discover that this was always the plan. This was always what the agenda was when it came to Israel and the Zionist homeland. All right. Now under the control of the British, Palestine is handed over to the Rothschilds and their Zionist movement by Arthur James Balfour, who in a wave of post-Holocaust sentimentality appealed to give the Jewish a homeland that was already spoken for. The Balfour Declaration was Britain's overt expression of loyalty to the idea of a Jewish homeland for Jewish Europeans. Vague and written in favor of the colonizers, it ensured no protections of the livelihood of Palestinians. No true ones anyway. Again, enters the Rothschilds as this agreement was made first between Lord Lionel Rothschild and Arthur Balfour. Lionel Rothschild was the leading and unspoken leader of Britain's Jewish population. Okay, he was known as the leader, but he was also the unspoken leader of the Zionism movement, right? Continuing the legacy left by his constituents, he pushed forward for a homeland in the land of Palestine. The Balfour Agreement became the diplomatic foundation stone of the state of Israel. This was everything, because it transformed Israel into a diplomatic state by which their Zionist agenda was righted and approved by other diplomatic forces outside of them, such as Britain and other European nations and forces. The letter is as follows. Dear Lord Rothschild, I have so much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet. His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object. It being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. Yours sincerely, Arthur James Balfour. So now we have the makings of a real country: financial capital, land, business, and now true diplomatic backing. What we now must understand is the foundational principles of this land. To do that, we must understand the foundational principles of Zionism. Zionism, in and of itself, is an extremist ideology which centers itself around the displacement of an entire ethnic group in favor of another who believes they are righted because of religious ratification. Modern sources will say that it is the far-right ideology of Israel peddling these beliefs, but it is the foundation of modern-day Israel. There is no, quote, good or, quote, bad Zionism. The belief in creating a homeland on the backs of the dead, figuratively or literally, is in its most quiet forms destructive and deadly. So let's go into the foundations of Zionism. The true transformation to a political project came through Theodor Herzl, an Austro-Hungarian journalist. In 1896, Herzl published Der Judenstaat, the Jewish State, laying out a secular plan for a Jewish homeland in Palestine as the answer to European anti-Semitism. Herzl envisioned mass Jewish immigration to Israel, economic infrastructure, and support from international powers. In 1897, he convened the first Zionist Congress in Basel, Switzerland, producing the Basel Program. The goal was to establish a home for Jewish people in Palestine secured under public law, and methods were promoting Jewish settlements, farmers, artisans, organizing Jewish institutions, fostering national consciousness, and seeking diplomatic approval. All goals that Israel has met in the last 100 years of this occupation. The Congress and the World Zionist Organization set about building the home, a step short of statehood, to avoid alarming the Ottoman regime during Palestine. This is what, Lord Lionel Rothschild, right, and his descendants were doing in the 1880s to the 1920s. They were doing a very silent and very unknown takeover of Palestine even during the Ottoman Empire. So this is pre-collapse. So when I said that they had shook a hand earlier on, what I meant by that is the Rothschilds always were going to be granted Israel. There was never a chance in hell that they were going to give Israel and Palestine and Syria back to the Arabs. But they told them that they would, but they were never going to do that because the agreement was already made in money, in capital, and in movement. Because the Rothschilds were already allowed to make headway. So if they're already allowed to make headway, that means that the hand was already shook. The agreement is already done. It's already been said 100 times over. Hey, we're doing this. We're not doing that. So if we're saying we're doing this, why the hell would we believe? Why the hell would you believe they're going to do that? They straight up lied. Okay, they are flashing two hands at the same time, right? And then they're putting one behind their back saying, we never did that, though. But we never did that, though. But you did do that, though. Let's move on. Okay. Recent scholarship identifies a neo-Zionism, an evolution toward aggressive expansion. Israeli historian Ian Pape argues that current policy seeks to complete takeover of historic Palestine and removal of Palestinians by force, framing today's leadership as more ambitious and ruthless than prior generations, hoping to finalize the unfinished business, quote, of earlier Zionist projects. So this is where I'm also going to be touching on in a timeline later on down the reading. But right here is what you have to understand. Neo-Zionism does not exist because Zionism in and of itself is Neo-Zionism. The methods and the methodology, period, that was used to extract the Palestinians from their land has always been ruthless. And I'm going to show you that as we go down this timeline. It has always been ruthless. It has always been about ethnic cleansing. And it has always been about religious superiority, which the Israelis or the Jewish people demonstrated early on. This is one of their first things that they did when they got to the Palestinian land, was to demonstrate their religious superiority and their religious right to the land of Palestine, which we now know as Israel. Okay, moving on. This phase is marked by right-wing political dominance, government support for settlements in the West Bank, attempts to annex occupied territories, and laws privileging Jewish citizens. The goals of Zionists have always been the same, and as Israel transformed into a genuine militant and diplomatic force, it gains the means of doing so. This plan of dominating the land of Palestine has been over a century in the making, and we are seeing the brunt of it. The end of their brand new beginning. They'd hoped like cockroaches these people would leave and their resolve would break as soon as they knew they were getting pushed to the outskirts. However, it only made their resolve that much more reinforced, something the Jewish state was not prepared for. From 1929 to present day, a string of conflict ensued, some targeted at the Jewish state and others targeted at the Palestinian population. This targeting came in the form of land rights, civil rights, and massacres aimed at population control. It began socially with the Ibarak Wall / the Wailing Wall in September 1929. This is what I mean when I say that they enforced their religious superiority upon the Palestinians here. This was a public display of Jewish takeover, highlighting that they were the true inhabitants of the land as they cased themselves up against this wall and they all came together, the entire Jewish population of Palestine came together on this wall to declare Palestine as a Jewish homeland. Okay? This was a public display of Jewish takeover, highlighting that they were the true inhabitants of the land, casting Palestinians in an opposing light to their mission of creating a homeland for themselves. Here we see the social and religious vilification of Palestinians. There was no room to consider them as humans fighting for their right to exist, but mere obstructions to divine justice. Here, they declared Palestine as a Jewish place, one that was handed by the righteous hand of God, which they should forever stand proud in. Here we have nationalism coming up again here because you are unifying these people by a common thread, a common thought, and that common thread is Zionism. It is incredibly ingrained in all of their infrastructures now because it is the solid base. It is the one solid base that Israel has here. Okay? Other than that, it's just a random country. You know, it's a country filled with Jewish people, yeah, but it's Zionism that connects them all. It is Zionism, the idea that this is a homeland, from the Abrahamic religions, we are the real Israelites. God made this place for us. That idea reinforces them, and it also gave them a sense of safety post-Holocaust. But what they are doing today is the same as what Hitler did to them, and I know we hate to make that comparison, but it's the truth. And they got away with all of this because of post-Holocaust sentimentality. Not to say that there wasn't sentiments that needed to be had here. You know, people shouldn't be like, okay, like let's give them something because they went through something, yes, but let's not give them the tools to destroy a whole other group of people the same way that Adolf Hitler did. Okay? Then, the Palestinian Revolt from 1936 to 1939. After World War I, the Jewish immigrants began to overtake Palestinian land, 6% to 33% in 3 years, pushing out the locals, which incited much pushback in the form of revolt and protests. Arabs, the indigenous populace, wanted a homeland for them who were already there prior to the Ottoman Empire's occupation. But Zionist Jews wanted a homeland for themselves, and they found that in Palestine. So do you see the conflict here? Continuing. Zionists portrayed their goal as a life-saving national rescue rallying global support amid profound post-war guilt and horror. The trauma of anti-Semitism and statelessness became the moral foundation for rapid, large-scale migration. So here you have the Jewish population coming in and pushing these people out, right? Because you're moving from 6% to 33% in such a short time. There's not enough time for the Palestinians peoples to expand. It's only about the Jewish people coming in and taking over, right? They're not existing or coexisting. They don't care to coexist. All they care to do is move in and take over because what they're saying is, this is my land. It's not our land. This is my land. And you don't get to stay here. Like, it's literally like, that's the simplification. It's not like an oversimplification of anything. It's just, this is my land and you don't get to be here. You don't get to stay here because God didn't put you in the Bible. He didn't include you in the plan for the Israelites. So why are you here? Like, it's like, get the fuck type of energy. Okay? Then another social implication in 1947. This is a year before Israel becomes a country. Then another social implication in 1947. And what you have to realize here is what I'm about to read to you in these next parts. Israel wasn't even a country yet. They were just random people. Like, these were just random people coming to these people's country who were authorized by the British government to do the things that they did. So they're not a country. They're not a diplomatic force. They're just people with the righteousness of God and the Rothschilds behind them. Do you know how insane that is? Continuing. The partition plan. As violence ravaged Palestine, the matter was referred to the newly formed United Nations. In 1947, the UN adopted Resolution 181, which called for the partition of Palestine into Arab and Jewish states, handing over about 55% of the land to Jews. Arabs were granted 45% of the land, while Jerusalem was declared a separate internationalized territory. This resolution, in quotes, set the bar socially and internationally for the response to what we now consider the occupation of Palestine. The utter disregard for the people's right to exist in their own land gave the Jewish state a power they otherwise would not have been granted. This is where the power imbalance comes into play. The imbalance in percentage even shows the favoritism of the righteous path of Jewish people in Palestine. It says to the world, we support the Jewish state and their means of displacement. Moreover, we have a hand in it and encourage it. How dare you? How dare you come to my land and then give away 55% of my land to foreigners? How fucking dare you? And do you know what they gave them? They gave them the innermost part of Palestine, leaving Palestinians on the outskirts. What is that if not displacement? What is that if not pushing them out literally? What is that if not an attempt to kick them the fuck out? Continuing. This emboldenment turns into outright misplaced audacity as we enter 1948. On April 9th, 1948, Zionist forces committed one of the most infamous massacres in the war in the village of Deir Yassin, on the western outskirts of Jerusalem. More than 110 men, women, and children were killed by members of the pre-Israeli state Irgun and Stern gang Zionist militias. Zionist military forces expelled at least 750,000 Palestinians from their homes and lands and captured 78% of historic Palestine. The remaining 22% was divided into what are now the occupied West Bank and the besieged Gaza Strip. This mass exodus came to be known as the Nakba, or catastrophe. Do we see what is happening here? The genocide started April 9th, 1948, and it began even before that, okay, with the Palestinian revolt. This is a conflict that's been happening for a very long time. And the power imbalance that is at play here is because the Palestinians don't have anyone backing them. Even to this day, Israel is backed by NATO, even though they are not specifically a part of NATO. And they are backed by major superpowers, European superpowers, and Western superpowers in general, the United States of America and Britain, period. They are backed by these superpowers. Palestine has none of that. They have no backing. Okay, the only people backing them are other Middle Eastern countries, which are ravaged by Western superpowers. Do you see the pattern here? The plight of Palestinian refugees is the longest unsolved refugee problem in the world. They never planned to help these people. They always wanted to displace them. They always wanted them out of the way. They always wanted to get these people, kill these people, cleanse this land of those who were not religiously righteous, such as the Jews. It was always about that, y'all. It was never about nothing else. Okay? It doesn't matter about Hamas. Hamas doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, Israel was going to follow through with its plans no matter what. It didn't matter if Hamas rose or not. And I have my own ideas on Hamas as well. So I will continue reading. So now we have a mass show of the true intentionality of the Zionist agenda. And intentionality they later followed through as went the 21st century. So I have an important timeline here. Okay? So we got 1948, May 14th. Israel declares independence. 1967, we have the 6-Day War, Israeli occupation of West Bank, Gaza Strip, East Jerusalem, which is also, deadly. This was a deadly event. 1987 through 1993, we got the emergence of Hamas, late 1987. From 1993, we have the 2000s to the 2000s, we have the Oslo Accords. Accords meant to bring peace, right? Because they split Gaza, or Palestine, right? Gaza Strip and the West Bank and East Jerusalem up. That's Palestine. And you have Israel. Israel and Palestine were supposed to be coexisting, right? No, not right. In 1993, the Oslo Accords slowly broke down as Israeli settlements, Jewish communities built on Palestinian land in the West Bank, began to grow at a rapid pace. Again, these people are an invasive species here. They begin to push these people out as they are moving in with no regard for where these people are going to go, what they are doing, and no respect for the fact that this was their land. Hello? The building of Israeli settlements and a separation wall on occupied territories has fragmented the Palestinian communities and restricted their mobility. Sorry, y'all. 2005, Israel's unilateral disengagement from Gaza. Hamas wins Palestinian legislative elections in 2006, seizes control of Gaza in 2007. Okay, from 2008 to 2014, we got several major Gaza-Israel escalations, rocket exchanges, ground operations, 2008, 2012, and 2014. And October 7th, 2023, the militant group Hamas launched what would later become the deadliest terrorist attack in Israeli history. And I want y'all to sit up for this one when y'all hear these numbers. Okay, I want y'all to listen up to these numbers right here. The group sent several thousand rockets into Israel from Gaza, a Palestinian territory under Hamas control. Hamas soldiers also crossed from the Gaza border into Israel, where they killed nearly 1,200 people and kidnapped over 200 more, many of them civilians. This attack has been informally called Israel's 9/11. So why is it called Israel's 9/11? Let's get into what 9/11 really was. I don't know who was behind it. I don't really care. All I know is that 9/11 was an excuse for the United States government to persecute Muslims. That's all it was. Okay? It's literally all it was. Look, can we all come to that conclusion right quick? It was literally just another excuse for them to prosecute Muslims and prosecute Iran and prosecute the Middle East and rape the Middle East of its fucking resources. That is all that 9/11 was. It was an excuse. It was the perfect excuse. That is exactly what this Hamas attack was for Israel. It was the perfect excuse to start that bullshit up again. And let me tell you what they did. They launched their own military assault on Gaza. Those efforts include near constant aerial bombings, which have destroyed over 2/3 of structures in Gaza and killed over 30,000 people, many of whom are civilians. Some experts have called Israel's operations some of the most destructive in military history. So, let's say it wasn't 1,200 and plus 200, let's say it was 2,000 people who died. 2,000 to 30,000? That is not a response. That is a massacre. And they know the power imbalance that exists between them, because Palestine does not have the capabilities to defend itself against Israel, a Western armed country, armed by the United States of America. Israel, who is a scapegoat in this all. Okay, Israel, who plays a crucial role in the United States not having to get its little hands dirty when it comes to war in the Middle East. They killed 30,000 people for 2,000 deaths. And if Hamas was really a terrorist organization, why are we going after the people? What do the people have to do with anything? They're terrorists. If they're terrorists and the government comes out and says we're not affiliated with them, then why are you killing the people? What did the people do? Nothing. It was an excuse, a perfect excuse. Okay, it was the absolute most perfect excuse that that Hamas could give them and that Israel could ever be supplied. I mean, they needed that. They needed that because if they didn't have that, then they wouldn't be justified in their evil. But at the end of the day, they are truly already justified in their evil because they're doing all this in the name of God. So, yeah, let's go kill 30,000 fucking people. Like, let's go do that shit because we need these hoes out the way anyways. That's literally the whole mentality surrounding this. We need these people anyways out of here. We don't need them here anyways. We trying to move somewhere here. This is our space. This is our land, granted us by God, a God we have not seen and a God who has not proclaimed this to us aloud, but we will still do it. Because centuries ago, we made this. Millennia ago, they made this decision. And 2,000 something years later, you want to rectify this and make Israel the homeland, that Zion is homeland again? Why you didn't do that shit 2,000 years ago? Why you want to wait till now? This is all about power and control. Let's keep going. Okay? The goal of the occupation was always total control. Hamas's attack did not prompt such harsh actions being taken among the civilian population. Period. Okay, y'all? I got tongue-tied, but period. An eye for an eye is one thing, but a country for an eye is another. 30,000 people. That's a whole ass city. That's a town. Obliterated. And for what? 2024. So you got continued Israeli military operations, intermittent ceasefire negotiations, humanitarian access debates, and then ICC and ICJ actions, which are hearings and arrest warrants by some international councils and treaties. So 2025, January through September, the beginning of the year till now, we got ground offensives focused on Gaza City, growing international diplomatic pressure, UN humanitarian warnings, and UN Commissioner HRW/Amnesty reports alleging possible international crimes. So, what I don't see on this timeline is accountability. The United Nations is trying to pressure Israel and call this a humanitarian crisis and blase. But no one on the United Nations is acknowledging the fact that it was the United Nations who gave them this homeland in the first place. It was the United Nations who set this up. This is a scheme set up by Todd, okay? And the United Nations is Todd. But they're not taking accountability for their schemes. So it's like, this all happened overnight. This all happened. No. It's because y'all let this happen. Y'all keep letting it happen. You didn't check them the first time it happened. You didn't check them the second time it happened. You didn't even check them the third time it happened. Now you want to check them when we're on our 10th time? Girl, that's not how you build discipline. That's not how you discipline your kids. Okay? The UN has to be better parents. If you're going to be the United Nations and truly be this international board of peace, then what are you fucking doing? Like, what are y'all doing right now? Y'all aren't international boards of anything. Y'all are international boards of fucking contradiction and fucking just terribleness. Like, all y'all are self-validating. And you move in your own self-interest. Why do countries have fucking veto power on the United Nations? It's the United Nations. Am I tripping? Like, why the United States of Europe have so much power? They have all this power because they have to operate in their own self-interest. Truly United Nations would have no veto power, and that then would bring down the hegemony of these European and Western civilizations, superpowers in general. The United Nations would then have no more real, it would have no goodness. You know, it would have no benefit to America or to Britain. These are literally colonizers. These are dictatorships. These are people who operate under the guise of freedom. Why the hell would they truly want a united worldview? They don't, which is why they control everything. They control and micromanage everything so that your freedom does not truly become realized. And that's the truth. Okay, let's move on. My stomach a little growly, but y'all don't listen to it, okay? I'm gonna give me some food after this. But I gotta get this. I gotta get y'all this. I gotta feed y'all. First, I gotta feed my kids, okay? Let's go. The United Nations, the United States' militant support of Israel gives it the overpowering and balanced force that it now has against Palestine, increasing the gap between the two populaces and squandering any hope and equal footing in this fight for a homeland. Hamas is not a terrorist organization, to me. Okay? It is a legitimate military force brought forth for the reason of ending the Israeli occupation. Palestine is a sovereign nation. Total control has been the goal from the beginning of the introduction of the Jewish state. And what we have to understand here, we're talking about Hamas because Hamas is backed by Iran, right? We have to understand is Palestine's end goal was to literally unite with the other Arabian Middle Eastern countries around it to secure and create a homeland, specifically Syria. Two halves to a whole. And we already know about war in Syria. So there's so much war going on in these Middle Eastern countries where all they're trying to do is unionize and build a better life for themselves, but they're unable to. Because what did Truman Doctrine say? A threat to democracy anywhere is a threat to democracy everywhere. A threat to the United States of America's control is a threat to the United States of America's control everywhere. The only reason they would ever step into any war of democracy, they don't give a shit about democracy. If they give a shit about democracy, they'd be fighting war for real. These people don't give a shit about democracy. They care only about the United States rhetoric not being diluted by the freedoms and the rights of people. Period. Okay, moving on. Let's go. Okay. Palestine is a sovereign nation. Total control has been the goal from the beginning of the introduction of the Jewish state. To attempt to rationalize what is happening anyway by blaming Hamas is ignorant, because what we should be focused on is the Jewish takeover that is happening. These people were pushed to the brink, made to be refugees in their own land, exploited, and previously in one of the worst humanitarian crises globally. Now we are nearing the end of their 100-year plan of takeover. They have by all means achieved every goal their founders set out to make realized, and yet we are still in denial about the truth of the massacre. This is no war. It is a genocide, a systemic ethnic cleansing of a population of people who have been prosecuted for over 400 years. This is my problem also. Y'all are screaming, free Palestine, do a ceasefire. Shut the fuck up. Please shut the fuck up. Because y'all pissing me off. What the fuck is a ceasefire gonna do? It's about free Palestine. But free them from what? Do you even know? In order to free Palestine, you have to completely dissolve the state of Israel. It should not exist. That country should not exist. Point blank and period. Can we rid our world of these fucking Israelites? Dead ass. Send these people back where they fucking came from. Europe. Bitch, you're not from here. Girl, bye. It's upsetting me and my homegirls, because what in the world made y'all think that was okay? Anyways, even if Hamas was not in existence, Israel would still use the resistance of Palestinians as reason for their death. And if not resistance, then their mere presence, just as they have before. They are in the way of the greatest revelation of Jewish history. The country craves expansion, and by clearing the West Bank and Gaza Strip, they are able to take hold of their own destiny. Hello, Manifest Destiny Part 2, anybody? Israel is not a nation that can stand against major militant powers, something they are in quiet admittance of as they used the help of the United States to prolong and continue their war. Now, I have two questions. What is the United States' war? What is the United States' role in this war? And where do we go from here? To answer the first question, I don't have an overtly developed theory of the placement of the United States in this war for a Jewish state besides support of structural development and disdain of Iran. Theoretically, by supplying Israel with weaponry and arms, they can fight the war of Iran without the United States having to actively send troops, something much of the American population is avidly against. Israel is partnered with NATO, but are not bound by Article 5 because they are not technically in NATO. It makes them the near-perfect fall guy for a conflict against its Middle Eastern counterparts, which are surrounding them. This then begs the question. Is the United States in support of the Zionist agenda? Are they too looking to build up a homeland in the Middle East? And where is the justification for that? Where is the cause and effect? What does it offer to us? What are we getting from a Zionist homeland? What are we getting? Who's Jewish around here? I'm sorry. Who's Jewish? I thought they were still putting up anti-Semitism billboards around the country. So it's like, what is the effect of this on the United States of America? Is this all in an effort to enforce another form of white supremacy? Is this all in an effort to rid the world of what the United States sees as a major counteraction to their overall goals, which is Muslims, Islam, Middle Eastern people? Like, and I'm assuming that people thought that, that Americans wouldn't really care because of 9/11, but 9/11 was stupid. I mean, let's be honest, a lot of it doesn't make sense. And the rhetoric that was pushed after 9/11 only just makes less sense to me. Because what does them being Muslim have to do with the fact that they, were terrorists? It has nothing to do with that. They don't like you bitches. They told y'all what they were going to do. Y'all dumbasses set up here and let that shit happen. So it does give that it was planned because they already told y'all what was going to... We already knew it was going to happen. They told us. It wasn't like we just, it just happened one day and, oh my gosh. No, we already knew it was going to happen. So to let it play out and then to blame these people and then to use that, it's like you just used it as an excuse to go to war. That's all it was. It was another excuse to do another type of genocidal acts. It was another excuse to do another type of separation via race and culture, right? And socially to extract these people, socially to push these people to the outskirts, to the brinks of our society where they could not be trusted and not be integrated and not be assimilated. The same thing that Trump is doing right now with Mexicans, quote unquote, okay, Hispanic immigrants and immigrants in general. Let's continue. As far as where we go, the first step is acknowledgement and accountability. We now know how it got this far, but what we have no knowledge of is the countries, nations, and municipalities who know their part in this process of slaughterous butchery. It's debaucherous for real. It's really dubious. I'm telling y'all, this is literally a scheme set up by Todd. It is so fucking dubious to sit here and read all this information out and do all this research and then see what it has become today. It should never have gotten this far. And it was always leading there. And it was so very clear from the beginning. Let's continue. European nations beseech the conflict as if it is not one of their own making. Seemingly. Okay, I don't know if this is true or not. They all have amnesia as they forget the origins of this conflict. And so socially, you have as well. Believing it is only about Hamas, that it is about warring countries. Socially, we are blinded and the governmental system structured would rather we stay that way. What help can we offer, if any, to the people of Palestine? A ceasefire is blasphemous as you tell them to cover their heads while the ground opens up beneath them. But Israel has gone too far to truly turn back now. There are no more options available other than to violently plow ahead, striking the conviction of a people and killing them in their resolve. They say to get them out, but why abandon the very reason you are dying? Why die without the honor of your blood being left behind on the land you defend with your very last breath? This massacre is about breaking the resolve of a people wide open so that the gashing wound never heals. So that they may never forget the righteous hand of God that slashes into them as they defy his devilish constituents. The war on Gaza is more than Palestine versus Israel. It is a war on us all. A war on the social freedoms we have and the lives we hold so dear to us. As they colonize the body of land in Palestine, our government colonizes our minds, poisoning us with propaganda so deadly we forget about the chains resting at the feet of Our Lady Liberty. It could be worse, they'll say. You should be grateful, proud to be an American, they'll spew. And like children, we're force-fed the same cycle of erasure that was bestowed upon our ancestors as they turned the blind eye to atrocities committed by man not much stronger than you and I. Tantrums thrown by men with no power, only pride, with temperaments the size of Texas. This end marks a new beginning, and what the beginning leads to is up to you. How do you wish to rewrite this reality? In the stories of old or in the tales of new, unheard, and unseen? I think we also have to give some leeway to the idea of our country being under foreign rule by Israel. But I don't believe that Israel has the true power to occupy this country in the way that we want to say that it has. Yes, our country is under a foreign influence, but it has been compromised. But this country has been compromised since 2016 because when Trump was elected, he compromised his country by the introduction of Russia and a Russian intelligence. So now you have Russia and Israel playing in our country. And it just is like, who is at the head of it all? The rich, corporations, owners, right? People who own these countries, right? Who own not the political, but the capital structures that pre-exist in these countries. And the United States of America, if it is now a European, not a European, well, yeah, it would be European. At the end of the day, it would be a European takeover. It would all lead back to King Charles and them. Because we have to understand from what I just told you, Israel isn't really a sovereign nation. It is a European British nation. Okay, it only became sovereign in 1948, but before that, it was a glorified settlers colony. Started by the British, the Rothschilds. A scheme set up by Todd, y'all. I'm telling y'all. And it all leads back to them, to their foundational principles of Zionism and the foundational principles of the Rothschilds. So it then begs the question again of who came over here from there and held those same ideologies. Who are the sympathizers of the state of Israel? And I'm not saying the sympathizers of Jewish people, but of Zionists, of people who aim to violently create a homeland for themselves. And any displacement is in and of itself violent and violence. It's not just about, bombs. It's about literally displacing these people. How would you feel if people you don't know, never heard of, come into your country, let's say somebody came to your city right now. And they said, it's my city because God told me this is my city. And they came and moved in your house. And they came and plowed your fields and took all your jobs and made y'all live on the north side, the worst side of town. You want to take your shit back. And that's exactly what these people want to do. But everybody's acting like they don't have that justification because they're not white. Let's be honest. If these were white people, y'all wouldn't give a shit. Like, let's be honest. You only care because you have these stigmatized views of the people of Palestine and the people in the Middle East, period. But it's not like the Jewish people are living any better in Israel. They have this idea that these people aren't free, but nobody is free. So it doesn't matter that they're not free. You know what I'm saying? Jewish people aren't going to free them. White people aren't going to free them. Americans aren't going to free them. You aren't going to free them. So it's like, why do you care? Let these people do what they do. Let these people do what the fuck they do. That was nobody's place. It is nobody's place to violently impede. You do that diplomatically. You ask. You don't tell. Like, it's quite like simple, and like it's kind of honestly the most simplistic way that I can put it is people just need to learn how to leave shit alone. And instead of forcing yourself onto things and institutions, what you should do is you should ask questions. You should ask them, do you want my help? Can we come here? Can we establish our homeland here? And when they say no, then you ask leave. Because y'all could have did that shit in Europe. Y'all could have kept that shit in Europe or anywhere else. but to go. And it's like, we know that the reason for this outright, just fuckery, it's like this disdain, right? It's like setting them to the side so fucking clearly. It's because they're not white. They didn't start moving in on this whole Jewish homeland thing until the Ottoman Empire was about to crumble. They didn't do it before. They did it right before the Ottoman Empire crumbled. They started it. They didn't do it before because they have no care for people who aren't white. And that's the fucking truth. And it's fucking pitiful. Honestly, it is. And I hope that you learned something. And I hope that you're just as mad as I am. I'm not going to lie. I hope that people are angry because this is something to be angry about. You know, if you're not angry about anything, this is that. Because this is so ingrained in everything that we do. It is not just about this one conflict or this one situation. No, it's all of it. Doubling down to the way that we experience life here in America. And it's not okay, and it's not fair, and it shouldn't be happening. And if you're not going to educate yourself on the subject, I just recommend that you just shut up. Not going to lie, because we don't need any more voices speaking into the void. Like, we don't need any more people trying to propagandize to us. So, yeah, you already know my stance. I don't stand with the rich. I don't stand with corporations. I'm an anarchist. And I actually want to go in depth on this, but I'm a real anarchist. I do not believe in government at all. People should rule themselves. You want a leader? Choose your leader. Government systems are not leaders. They're systems. You are ruled by a system. And the system works for itself. The system is not in benefit of you. It's in the benefit of the system. It's the same thing with capitalism, okay? Capitalism works for capital. Capitalism works for money. Capitalism works for capitalism, but it's not working for you. These things aren't set up to work for you. These things aren't designed to help you. They are designed to help themselves. The government operates for the government. The government doesn't operate for the people. And that's why it shouldn't exist. Governments are stupid. It's a stupid idea to have a governing body. I don't need anybody governing over me, telling me what to do. I can tell myself what to do. And if you feel like you need somebody to tell you what to do, you need to check that. You need to check that mentality. Because we're coming up at a point where people are going to start telling you to do shit, and it's not going to make no sense. And your ass still going to do it because you just slow. You know what I'm saying? But don't be slow. You know what I'm saying? It's not a time to be slow no more. We are reaching a climax of just crazy ass proportions like we've never seen before. So it's time to buck up and get smart, okay? And I'm dead ass, It's not time to be dumb or play like we don't understand what's going on or say, I don't care about politics. Do you care about your life? I mean, at least I think you should care about that. Do y'all care about that? Because I know a lot of people who don't. So it's like buck up, get educated, learn. You don't even have to take my word for it. Go do your own research. And then when you learn about this shit, you should be mad. You should be angry. You shouldn't sit there like, oh shit, well, can't do nothing about that. No, nigga, no. You can though. You can. You can do something. We can all do something. Even if that something is small as, I don't know, writing an article or doing something on the podcast or just knowing in your heart of hearts, this is fucked up and I want to change it. You should want to change shit like this. You shouldn't look at shit like this and go, oh, there's nothing I can do about it. Because it's deeper than that. The more you succumb to the will of others, the more that will becomes yours. The more you don't have a mind of your own. That is what's happened in our world. Nobody has a mind of their own. You're all thinking on accord to other people, to other things, to other systems. You're whoever somebody tells you to be. You're whatever somebody tells you are. You don't even know what you are. What are you? Tell me. You don't know. Don't answer. Because I don't want to hear your lie. So, yeah, y'all, that's what I'm on right now. And this was really heartbreaking to discover and to go into really deep. It was really heartbreaking because it's just so much death and so much desolation and so much dilution. It is so much lying and propaganda that's out here around this particular subject so that you don't want to stop the ethnic cleansing of an entire group of people. And then more than that, you have this even deeper layer of governments literally propagandizing themselves as the good guys, as the, oh, we don't have anything to do with this, as the, oh, this is wrong. But it's like, this is wrong? I didn't think it was wrong at first. I mean, you didn't think it was wrong in 1948. You didn't think it was wrong in 1920. You didn't think it was wrong in 1880. But it's wrong today. Because now people are condemning you. Because now people are dying. Well, people are always going to die. They were always set up to die. That was always the plan. That was always the goal. And it's a shame that it's just now that people are realizing that. What did they think was going to happen? You know, where did they think this was going to go? Immediately from looking at that first, like my first document I read about Zionism, I knew, oh, these people, they want them to die. Like that's the end goal immediately. Like I immediately knew that. You know these things. We know these things. It's either you're in denial or you accepted that and you were like, I'm fine with it. And I feel like that's what they did. They were like, I'm fine with it. You know, I'm fine with these people dying. I'm fine with nothing happening. I'm fine with, you know, I'm being okay with the idea that all these people are going to fucking die. And that's just that. Like they're okay with it. You're all okay with it. And that's why nothing is happening. That's why the ceasefire doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, they're just going to start a fucking again. Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump are the best friends since him and fucking Vladimir Putin. Like, be for real. Be fucking for real. They say Israel's our ally, but Israel can't give us shit. All we're doing is supplying their vision for a Jewish homeland. It's like, why are we even doing that shit? Do you even know? I don't think so. I don't think anybody knows. I'm not going to lie. I do not think anybody knows. And it's like, we need to start requesting information from these higher sources because at the end of the day, there is so much that our government knows that we have no idea about. I mean, I was reading the Gateway tapes and the CIA, like, psychic files and like about the GATE program and everything like that. I'm going through this. And these are things that people are avidly in denial about every single day. People call you crazy for acknowledging the reality of these things. But that is because they want you to believe that you're crazy by acknowledging the reality of psychics and telepathy and remote viewing and being able to control things with your fucking mind and your hands and your head. They want you to think that you're crazy so that you never realize your true potential and your true power. But they are actively weaponizing this potential and power against the state, against the citizens, against the people. And we have no idea to what extent it goes to for real. And that is why all of our systems have to be torn down from the bottom up and recreated and restructured because nothing is real. Nothing is true. We don't know what is true. We don't know what is fake. Everything is clouded in such a mysterious aura that blocks us from ever reaching our truest potential. And that is why it is time for all of this to end. And maybe we will go to a nuclear war with each other and we'll all fucking die. Or maybe, just maybe, this world will be stripped so bare that you will have no other choice but to look inside yourself and see the truth of yourself and humanity. Just a little word. That's all I have to say. Thank you for watching and reading, reading, and hearing, listening to the Creative Collective podcast. I'm Carolina Creative, and I'll be here every Friday teaching you something new, learning with you, and just expressing myself, expressing my feelings, my emotions, my big emotions about this world. And yeah, if you're part of the Creative Collective, welcome. I'm glad to have you, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you, and have a great day. Hello, it's me. Hello. I figured it wasn't going to save. But it's fine. That should save.